Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to Midtown's Go Team meeting. We will follow the agenda that has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that only members of the Go Team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe, but may provide public comment during our 2 public comment periods. This meeting of the Go Team is called to order at 4:04 p.m. We'll start with the roll call. Our secretary is not yet here, so I will proceed. Please respond present when your name is called. Betsy Bachman. Here. Eric Goldberg, our secretary, is not here. Audrey Reese, I am here. Trinae Uzuka. Here. Roderick Hill.
Here.
Lisa Boyd. Here. Wilgina Montgomery. Here. Tamara Jones. Here. Nidia Rivera. Here. Eden Sharp. Here. Okay. There is a quorum present. We will proceed with our first 10-minute public comment period. Would anyone like to provide public comment on the items noted on the agenda? As a reminder, public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. Is there anybody out there? Okay, no one's out there. Okay, no public comment. So we'll now move forward with the approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Can I make a change? Just an addition.
Okay.
So after approval of previous minutes, if we could put appointment of second Go Team student rep.
Okay.
And one more addition.
Okay.
Down here in information,
Mm-hmm.
the information item is update on the cluster advisory team.
Where is that? Oh, it's AB. Okay, the update on the cluster advisory. Okay, so we have 2 additions to the updates to the agenda to add the appointment of the second Go Team student rep and the update on the cluster advisory team. May I have a motion to approve the updated agenda?
So moved.
A second? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Now we'll move on to the approval of the previous minutes. We will review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you. Are there corrections?
I asked for, when it says in the minutes, Go Team, needs to say Go Team member when something's being brought forth, not just the Go Team decided this, the Go Team, if it was an individual, it needs to say Go Team member. So I'm asking if that, in those specific minutes, if it can be changed. Also, there was no action taken by the body in October for any actions, any surveys. So I want to make sure that that distinction is made, that we did not take it. The Go Team did not take any action on any items or ask for action to be taken by vote. Sorry.
Is that on any item? Is that what you said? Okay. Are there any other corrections?
One of the things it says is teacher Go Team reps indicated that the focus of students should be on learning rather than grade numbers. And then there's an additional comment increasing the weights of student tests to 70 rather than 30. However, undermines the goal of focus on learning. That second part was not, I don't think, true to what we actually said. So.
Okay, could you repeat that?
Yes, sorry.
You could just put other members before that second piece. Other members said blah, blah, you know, so that it distinguishes that from the teacher reps.
Yeah, because right now it's, yeah.
So this is about the rating of 70-30. And we should say other members said, not that the teacher said.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Were there any other changes?
I do think it's pertinent, as Dr. Bachman said, it would be good to have up at the top, in your form, we do have in the form like actions taken, that there were no actions taken, just to be clear.
Mhm. Okay. And to clarify what you meant, Dr. Bachman, when a Go Team member says something versus when the Go Team represents something, you want that to be very clear.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have three changes to note. Were there any further corrections? Okay. If there are no further corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
As revised.
Yeah, as revised, yes.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay. Unanimous approval. We will now move on to the strategic plan update. Is that-
Can I jump in there
I'm
with,
sorry? Oh, I'm sorry, you did say that. We will now move on to the appointment of the second Go Team student
Okay,
rep.
and so he is sitting down there at the end. Neelam Parsons will be our second Go Team rep, student rep this year. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
You mind if I stand up? Just makes it easier to talk.
Stand up.
Sure,
Thank you.
I love it.
It's the debate coming inside of me, but
Mhm.
in case none of you guys heard, my name is Neelam Parsons. I'm class president. And I think really, to be honest, I don't know a lot about this Go Team up until recently. I've really tried my best through student government to represent and to kind of communicate what the student wants to the body, and seeing that there's an actual beyond student government body that's connected to APS, that's designed to help work with students, designed to make students' lives better, is really, really relieving to me. And having the opportunity to work within the context of it and be able to help this group, which is, devoted to helping people like me or Eden, is really, really important to me.
Mm.
I don't know how much time I'm allotted.
That's about you've used it. But you're a senior,
I'm a senior, yeah.
interested in.
Thank you.
But no, I know you're very interested in student government. In fact, he was the first one that came to me at the very beginning of the year and asked me about it, being involved in mental health, student mental health. And
Thank you.
I'm really good representative. So he is, I'm bringing him forth as, we don't need to vote, but he's the second.
Okay, well, welcome aboard
Welcome.
then.
Appreciate it.
All
Welcome.
right, yay, yeah. Okay, we can now move forward with the strategic plan update.
You have, and today the body will be ranking, make sure we're ranking the priorities because we're going into budget season, right after December.
Save so many tabs open.
So we've seen this a number of times over the years, over this year. So I have some suggestions here that I thought about, I'd like to discuss with you all, see if you bring this forward. So, and kind of making some changes, adjustments to the SMART goals. Maintain 80%.
Oh, sorry, this slide is the
Oh.
changes that we talked about last meeting. And then this one is the
Okay.
changes.
So, oh, sure. Okay, so the implement changes to school strategies. So we want to continue to implement PED free initiative based on teacher feedback to decrease the distraction in the classroom, continue to utilize parents to offer opportunities for gifted internship opportunities. As we explained last time, that course has exploded, and a big part of that is internships, and that requires a lot of possibilities. So we want to continue to do that. Jennifer, do you want to? You can
Sure.
go ahead.
So looking at the SMART goals that we looked at last meeting, and then looking forward to 25, 26, we'll have a data discussion and look at the grad rate, but the new one is included there. The first two SMART goals we're proposing to keep pretty similar to what they were in the past, just with new data points based on where we're currently are and where we are going. But having 3 and 4 updated to more accurately reflect the work that we're doing internally. So number 3 would really heavily focus on special education students across all of the grade levels, having them increase by at least 3% on the Georgia EOC milestones in 2026. And then having that 4th SMART goal focus on the implementation of the STEAM program school-wide and utilizing PBLs, the STEAM monthly professional learning that they're getting, and just making that more of a focus of our school, because both of those will definitely require budgetary items to make them happen effectively. So to kind of go back from, these are the current 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see the 3rd one is focused on the climate survey, which we have pretty good, it's not saying that these would go away. It's just not the top priority. And then that last one is providing a minimum of 10 opportunities per semester for parents to engage, which is, again, pretty much part of the culture of the school at this point. So removing those 2 and going towards something that we really need to continue to grow.
Okay, so that's, yeah. So what we need to do is take action on the strategic plan, the updated strategic plan. Is there any discussion? Well, after a motion and second, the Go team may have additional discussion. So we go ahead and do that. We have an updated strategic plan. Do we have a motion on that in a second to look at it? What, Jennifer?
When are we ranking our priorities? Is that after this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Motion.
If there's any discussion beforehand too.
Does anyone have any discussion on the questions, discussion, additions?
I had a question on the attendance, because we had a discussion about, the distinction between ADA and chronic absenteeism. And, once you get past 90% in ADA, you're doing pretty darn good as a school. And I know that that's what's in CCRPI. But is it worthwhile to track, our progress towards, reducing chronic absenteeism in that subset of students where there is an issue? And I think I mentioned at the September meeting that, we had met our goal, and you had attributed part of that to the attendance specialist. And, documenting that, and that as an effective strategy and why that worked, and, it moved us from X to X. I think showing that back to the district, in an argument for subsidizing, these positions is going to be very effective. And the other piece of it is, I think if we kept track of our chronic absenteeism and cross-tab that with our performance data, it might give us some really focused places to zoom in.
And so we have an attendance team that now meets once a week to try to keep up with. So that's led by Dr. Davis, our assistant principal. Ms. Rivera's on that. Special ed, lead teacher, or 2 social workers, graduation coach. So we meet every Friday and really look at the chronics and trying to do attendance contracts, getting parents in.
Incentives.
Lots of incentives. for that.
What kind of incentives?
Kind of gift cards, things
Oh.
like that. Yeah, we do like a 10 for 10. If you, tardiness is a huge problem,
Mhm.
but so if you're here 10 times, kids that we're targeting, not every
Right.
student, kids that we're targeting 10 days in a row, get a gift card, that kind of thing, really trying. Part of the problem here is, or just the challenge here is, and I'm working with the district on this, is not having a lot of teeth in the attendance policy, the APS attendance policy. And so right now you can, a student can be absent 3, 4, 5 days in a row. A parent just sends an email, child's sick. I've asked the district that we need to put much more in, or something more rigorous in there, that medical documentation is needed after 3 consecutive, something like that. There are some special circumstances, but to not just keep the parent keep emailing and saying, child's sick, after 3, your child's really sick if you're still, that kind of thing. So really asking them to, because there's nothing in there now, there's nothing. So I've gotten them to look at it and really try to come up with something. Also, the real challenge here is, as our students probably kind of test, is we don't have a mechanism to shut down grades or inputting grades or accepting work. I guess that's it. So if Mrs. Oka has a student that's absent 3 days in a row, unexcused, this is unexcused, just not there, she really doesn't have a way to shut down Schoology or whatever to not accept work that's being submitted. And so it still creates this kind of quasi virtual work at home kind of and submit work. We have really tried. That's why I need something more to help with that, because it's not possible for the teachers to keep up with, I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, but to keep up with who's excused, who's not, the late policy, blah, blah, blah. It's too much.
Yeah, it doesn't show up until it doesn't show up that day, and it's not linked to the grading. It just says
Yeah.
absent. So
Right.
it's difficult for us to be able to figure. Then we have to go back and look up in attendance and those kinds of things. One of the things that some of us are doing to try to push back against that problem is having students do more handwritten assignments in class. But then you get parent complaints that, well, this needs to be posted in Schoology. We don't want that.
Right.
We're trying to get it done in class.
We want to keep it a secret.
Right.
To add on to it, as I just started driving to school this year, and naturally I discovered the parking situation, and I was tardy a few times, and I really, like during the month of August, I kind of discovered I do not want to be tardy. Like the consequences are real. They kept on hitting, and I was like, all right, naturally, senior skip day was coming up. I was like, I'm sure if the consequences for being tardy are bad, I might not want to skip. Turns out all the consequences was, oh, you just can't return in your work. I was like shocked, because here I am fighting against tardies, but there was virtually no punishment for just skipping class.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to formally suggest anything, but I think
Who doesn't want to be that?
I don't know.
Change tomorrow.
I don't know how if I formally suggest something, we'll all suddenly vote. I'm not acclimated to it. But I would think that a nice first step would be real consequences. If we want to have teeth, why don't we start, why don't we start biting? Why don't we start assigning detentions and ISSs and all that stuff after I graduate?
So interesting. So I'm on a discipline committee, and one of the things we just talked about last week, school district-wide, is why is the punishment more severe for tardiness than for skipping?
It was better
And
for me
in
to
the
skip, but I
APS
was already on senior skip
handbook,
day.
it is, it's more, it goes to like level 2, level 3 for tardy, and so they are definitely looking at that, because that is, that's
It's
crazy.
insane. I mean, on senior skip day, a lot of my friends, they were all debating, coming to school because they didn't really want their teachers to like not have any kids to teach and whatnot. And when we all realized that it's literally, it was worse for us to come at like 12:30 or whatever. No, it was on SAT day or PSAT day, whatever day it was. It was worse for us to come at 12:30 than it was to skip the entire day. Yeah, like it was kind of crazy. I don't know.
So we are working on that kind of stuff.
Any further
I
discussion?
don't know what to tell you.
Okay, is
Sorry,
there,
that was Aaron.
okay. Is he trying to get in?
No, he had the time wrong and he's just now leaving work. And so now he's debating if he's gonna
If
make
he's
it at
gonna be
all.
tardy or just absent?
Right.
There, he just came right on in there.
That was well timed.
So can we get a motion on this, update strategic plan to approve it?
So
Or are we
even-
there yet?
Yeah,
or
even
we're
if we don't change how it's written about attendance, I do think that maintaining a level of conversation throughout the year, just to be able to feed that back to the district about just how much help we need, and that, because they have to have consistent policies on, disciplinary, things that they assign as punishments. And I just think, peeling the onion and, telling them, all right, we've got different issues. We've got that issue. We've got a subset of kids who are chronically absent. Like each of them requires different strategies. And as long as we maintain that discussion going forward, I'm okay with it the way it's written, but I just want us to always have our eye on the kids who, for whatever reason, are, because it's a district problem.
Especially, right,
are not
given the
easy.
district's priorities, the two main priorities are special education and literacy. And special education has just been that subset of students has been very, very difficult to get back to school to the level that they need to since coming back. That has been the group that has been hardest hit, the most needy, but the hardest hit since virtual.
Okay, did we have the motion? and the
No
second?
one made a motion or a second.
Motion to approve the strategic plan.
Okay, second.
People come on.
I-
What are we doing?
Okay. Okay.
Are we allowed to?
Are we allowed to say- Yes, you are. Well,
Okay, I've just never did. I didn't want to.
She's already done it, but your full member is just like,
Okay.
I believe that's
Never
the-
have to
I
second the
participate.
motion again.
okay. All right, now, the ranking of the strategic plan priority.
Oh, we have to
I'm
vote.
sorry, I'm ready to go on to the next thing. Okay,
You're trying to do a lot.
all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, unanimously passed. All right. Now we can move on to the ranking of the strategic plan priority.
So the next thing is to be able to rank from higher to lower, going on those school priorities. So I can go back to the strategic plan here. I think this part is what we're ranking.
Yes, I am.
So the big boxes, I mean, that's. the-
Now you're this column,
The green column?
from
Green.
the green column.
Priority. You want
From
me to go
highest.
step up there and zoom in on it?
Do you want him to zoom in on it?
Yeah, do you want me to go zoom in on that?
Oh, I can do it.
Okay.
Maybe I
I
can't.
can't see
Go
it.
ahead. I can also be in
I
my
can't see
computer,
that.
but
I don't know if it'll work on Zoom. Oh, wait, yes, it is. Yeah, you got it.
You can do the rest.
I think it's might be the wrong.
You want to go back?
tab.
I got it.
There you go. Sweet. Essential member already.
So just any discussion or any, we're not doing the strategies, we're looking at the priorities. Any thoughts, discussion, what we should do.
What do you mean by culturally sustainable curriculum? What does that mean?
Offering a variety of courses that are rigorous, you're
Okay.
not just kind of focusing on one demographic of students, but
Okay,
the holistic master schedule
okay.
is making sure it's adhering to a lot of different types of students back.
Okay, right. This is all five of them. You have to rank these five.
There's
It's
11.
11.
Well, that's why I was.
Oh, wait, those are the current?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, those are the current ones.
Is
I
it,
mean, they
the-
can stay this,
is it the bolded items on here? Just for reading, is it the bolded items on here?
Oh, no, this is the cluster. This is
Okay.
different. Yeah, don't look at that.
Okay.
So you have to rank 1 through 11
Mhm.
from highest priority to
Yeah,
lowest
I
priority.
understand that. I was just trying to keep it all straight. Like, just I can't see them all at the same time. Can you go back to 1 through 5? Okay, curriculum, learning environment. Measurement.
Oh, neither, man.
Oh, he's gonna print them out.
Oh,
Mhm.
No, he's getting paper to write. If
Oh.
you want to write notes, I think.
Oh.
Who needs paper?
Anyone here? I think most of them have their notebooks.
I'm good.
I'm confident not at me when I start sharing paper.
We have, two of them are very similar to each other. 4 and 10 are very similar. And the fact that they're kind of offshoots of each other here twice say to me that that's an important thing for us. Right, so if you look at,
Can you go to 10?
Mhm.
So this is about parent engagement.
well, yeah, and that they feel welcome and have opportunities to support their students. I mean, all
I
of it.
think 4 is saying that as a school, we do this, and then 10 is saying that we help parents to do it. But yes, you're right, they go together.
They're the- yeah.
I mean, you can also, we can keep it the same. It doesn't have to, we just have to vote on, if you want to keep it, it's fine.
Did you rank them last year?
Yeah, yes. We've been operating on the same ones for a few years.
Any recommendations, Kelly? As far as the number, or listen to priorities?
Yeah, what is?
Well, I think
What is-
going back, because, thinking about the new SMART goals, special ed is gonna be a focus and STEAM is gonna be a focus. So what are the priorities that are gonna help us achieve those? I think one of them is the number 1, that
Yeah.
curriculum, because if you have to have a strong curriculum to be able to implement both of those
Mhm.
priorities.
Can you go back to 6 to 10?
How long is it gonna be before we get our STEAM certification?
Six, number 3.
Still? Even though we've been doing it for.
It's a process. It's very difficult. There's only 30,
We're in our third year.
there's only 30 schools across Georgia who have successfully completed Georgia DOE STEAM certification. So it's definitely a process. At the district level, they said, your timeline should be about 5 to 6 years before you go through
Yeah, because we wouldn't be able to have.
the certification process.
I'll be 5-3.
I feel like in some ways our STEAM PD is fighting with other PD for other
Kind of like
priorities.
one.
It's like, we're mostly only getting PD.
One
STEAM.
acre.
is kind of fighting with some of the other things. So I feel like if we could just kind of balance, more balance, that's one thing I've been thinking about.
A lot of our community is very, very focused on STEAM, and also then special ed, we're working with consultants to have better co-teaching. So that's what's making.
So do you see those as sort of permeating all of these priorities? Those two
Current.
things? Okay.
Yes.
Should we just like throw out each one of our top four and see?
No, we've just done it part of
How do people normally do this in terms of rankings?
There are a couple different ways. Usually they just discuss it around the table and like you said, throw out their top few and see if there's consensus on that. Some teams send out surveys prior to the meeting and then bring the data, so that they have a starting point.
11's kind of funny.
But basically it's just discussion.
Fantasy football draft.
I mean, none of them are unimportant, right? So it's hard to just do that, but you know,
Going through the top three would be everybody's top three. I'm not a member, so I can collect data as you guys are doing.
I can't do just three, I'm into four. So the ones that jump out to me right away
Hang
are
on, you know, let me make my.
1, 2, 4, and 10.
We already taken care of teachers. 6 is our program.
1, 2, 4, and 10.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Phil, do you have your top 4?
Huh? Go back to the first page.
I'm printing out, I just copied and pasted the list and I'm gonna print it out right now and get print a copy for everybody. So
Honestly, I say 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think 4 is similar to 10. Use existing and appropriate tools to measure, analyze, and communicate student progress. I think that's really important as far as feedback and evolving throughout the school year for student achievement. So I would have to put 3 up there as a priority. So, I mean, currently my top 4 would be the first 4. I do agree with 10. But 10 is somewhat tied to 4 as well. So
It's also tied to 3 because those are the things that would help the families to support their students. And that goes back to some of the discussion at the last meeting when I was offline, you know, talking about how do we equip both the students and the families
And the families.
to help them advocate
mhm.
or support their child.
I think we should say. Okay.
What's your top 4?
Okay, our top 4 were 2, 4, 6, and 1.
And both of you have the same?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were talking through it.
We were kind of thinking like, what is necessary for other stuff to proceed? And our kind of mindset was, we can't really do anything without a foundation. 2 is probably the most important because no benchmarks are improved, no parents are joining in, nothing's happening unless it's a, learning environment that's functional, safe, effective. 4, same kind of vibe. It's welcoming, inclusive, responsive. We need to have somewhere where people want to be and want to be included. Thank you. And then 6, obviously I love you teachers, Ms. Floyd, especially, but especially I don't think there's a really sharp contrast between teachers who enjoy their job and teachers who don't. And I mean, like, at least personally, but me and Eden both felt like when the teacher is not burned out, when a teacher is truly teaching, you're gonna match everything else, and no matter what, you're gonna learn the subject. Mr. Copeland in psychology, just to give a shout out, I still use what he taught me today because he genuinely wanted to teach it. He genuinely, taught me. And then 1 for last was just, you got to be prepared for that. That was just kind of all around good pick.
Okay.
You said it pretty well.
Thank you, guys. Anyone else want to share?
Good claim evidence reasoning.
Would we need to reorder these then? Because these are just
No,
bold
because
ones.
those go with.
They go with the other buckets.
Right, so
Yeah.
it's, we're not changing, we're not. You're not putting it on there. But just as budget comes, you're gonna go in order of your top priority.
Mine would be, 1, 2, 3, and 7.
Yeah. We're doing 4.
Okay. Mine would be 1, 5, 7, and 10.
I would pick a 2, 4, 5, and 10.
I'm fine with the way they are right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mhm.
Anyone else?
This is hard. Because I mean, none of them are not important.
Right,
So,
of course.
Right.
Mhm.
I think I'm gonna go 1, 2, 5, 7.
Yeah.
Okay. So as it stands, 2 and 1 would be, 1 and 2 would be the top priority, followed by 4. And everything. And then 3, 5, 7, and 10 are all together,
Mm.
followed by 6, and then 8, 9, and 11.
I mean,
Do
I
we
think
have to
data
get,
is important.
like, do we have to get like a 1 order? Or can they tie?
I think that's good what you just did. Like I just wrote that
Yeah.
out. I'm like, I can see that.
But I have like 4 of them at the same level.
Yeah, we have to come up with a,
We can
have to
argue
rank
this out
them.
right now, there's that last one, I guess, I mean, I like 3.
I could get behind that.
I mean, data is important, and having tools to measure the data, and student progress is, I mean, how can you do anything else without that information? So I feel, I mean, you say, for example, teacher input, is a lot of that's gonna be from the data that's gathered through student progress, through those tools that we need. So teachers need those tools before they can even communicate that information. What were the other ones? 3, 5, 7,
And 10.
And 10 are all
10,
the same
ensure
level.
parents, institutions welcome.
Some of that has to do with data too.
Yeah, I would say so too. Opportunities to engage with the school and their ability to support their students. Again, yeah, ability to support their students, they need to know, we have to gather that information and share it out to those parents. So I think the order 1, 2, 3, 4 is the correct order, in my opinion. But,
So 4 had 6 votes and 3 had 3 votes.
okay,
So it would be 1, 2, 4, 3,
okay.
based on the collective.
One of the things I want to bring up is, again, this is going to tie back to professional learning for teachers. So I'm thinking more about 7 than 3, and here's why. And I'm just going to give an example from my recent PD. We had a half day where we had professional learning with people who came in to teach us, and nothing was tied to any data. They didn't tell us what the standard was, how they were going to assess it. They gave us, we had these activities where we learned about art, and then we had to build a tower out of paper. And there was nothing about what standards were being addressed, how it even related to the lesson that she started with. There was no rubric of how you were going to assess it. It just was, which one was the tallest? That one won. And it's like, what, I don't understand how we're assessing student knowledge with this, and what are we even assessing? Because we didn't even have a standard we were trying to approach. So part of my issue is the reason that teachers need to be really involved in the input on professional development and instructional resources is because we're the ones who can say, this doesn't add up with this. And that's just as personally having been in other districts, that's constantly my concern, is that PD is delivered to us, not for us, and not with us. And it doesn't really meet the needs of what we claim we're trying to do and how it's going to help us. I don't see any, right now, I don't see a lot of cohesiveness between measurable data and what we're learning in PD. Like, I don't see that at all.
Well, I think you said something very important, which is that time is a resource.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's something for us to always keep in mind, not just the teacher's time, but also the student's time. You know, and so being mindful of that.
And the majority of our PD this year, well, it's on special ed for the co-taught groups and the STEAM. Now, I'm front-loading a lot of PD on STEAM. So it's kind of a requirement to get through the certification.
How many did 5 have? Number 5, how many did you have?
3.
How many did 10 have?
Also
3.
I think that might be the lack of engagement from parents. It does a lot. It breaks down a lot. I mean, I'm in my last year, but I still have to think that I have people coming up behind me. I have students coming up behind me. And what I try to explain to them, being involved in your educational, you only got one chance at this. I only have one child, I only have one chance at this. And I was told early on, but somebody pulled me to the side. They would not talk to me in the school. They pulled me to the side when my son was in the 2nd grade and told me how to navigate this all the way to high school and into college. And so having somebody do that for me coming in brand new, I didn't have a child. I didn't know what the school system was. I was like, oh, it was different from when I was in school, much different. And so I think that our children are not, and I can only speak from my perspective. My child is a Black child. So I can only speak from that perspective, is that not having that involvement with him at each step, they were easily trying to have him go down this rabbit hole. And once they found out that I am there and I had a village behind me, because I couldn't make every meeting, and I'll tell you that I can't. And so I had other people there that followed up, and then the whole spectrum of it changed. They treated you differently. I was treated differently. They spoke to me differently. They communicated more with me on different aspects of things. So that parent engagement is key. And for some reason, I understand that I've told me all the time, you always at school, but yes, because I only have one road at this, one try at this, and I have to get it now and get involved. And people say, well, I gotta work too. But you play into what you want to play into. So you make time for what you make time for. And Dr. Bauman knows I've been at high school, very active. And so I think just trying to get back to understanding that, because we're dealing with a younger parent, for one. We're dealing with grandparents that are raising kids for 2, and they don't have a scope of anything because they're trying to maintain what they have. And so they might not know how important the parent piece of being at the school, because I had to learn a lot too. When my son entered middle school, he was like, Mama, they've been contacting you, you just ignoring them. And I was like, how are they contacting me? I said, I'm looking at my email, and he got my phone, and he was like, Mama, this Google, where they say 27 messages, that's how I had no clue.
You didn't know the mechanism.
Yeah, so because I'm a visual learner, this is how I learn, and this is what works for me best. But then I had to change my scope into, and once he broke it down for me and they broke it down for me, I'm on point. And so maybe some of the parents, we don't have a lot of parent engagement, is because maybe some of our parents don't have high school diplomas. Maybe they don't have college degrees. Maybe they just never been told or never been taught. And I shared this with Dr. Botman when hers was in ninth grade. I didn't feel welcome when I first came. My son started, to start to talk to the administration about something. It was just like, it was them and me, and they didn't take me seriously at first until, and sometimes you have to step outside the box. I had to call downtown and say, hey, I said these questions, and they was like, you can't find out at your school level. I was like, no. And so then they bridged that gap with me, and then we moved forward. And most parents are not gonna do that because, some people just send their kids to school as long as they pass or whatever, but I think that parent engagement plays a huge, huge role. And I don't think it's a disconnect that we haven't found out how to bring that connection back to say how important this is. And, because when you get to high school, you be like, okay, I did fall back on my son, in high school. They were like, Ms. Montgomery, you can't be this helicopter parent and fall back. But then what I realized is he still couldn't gauge it. And so I mean, he's a senior now, so I didn't feel all the way back. But he still has those questions like, Mom, how do I, you can figure out most, but if I wasn't there or know who he needed to talk to or say, hey, when you send an email, this is how it's supposed to look, or things like that, then they wouldn't know. And I think a lot of parents have a disconnect because they don't know what's going on, or they have been shunned when they come up to, or acted out of sorts, and now you're labeled and nobody wants to help you anymore. When, hey, I was frustrated with something at home or at my job, I need to figure out this about my child because I'm trying to help them get to a certain point. Because at the end of the day, we have to put these little people in society, and they're the ones that's taking over as our politicians and our principals and our teachers and our workforce. And if they're not prepared, as in I want to say number one, then we're failing them.
So our parents and caregiver engagement is another potential resource that, I'm hearing you some things that is not being
It's not being
tapped to the degree it could be, which is another non-financial resource, but in the sense that, kind of what you're talking about is how do you get that to them, and what would then be the financial implications of that?
Question.
I'd like to say, when I was a freshman, man, not last year. Wow.
Trying to set you so bad.
But I mean, first I consider my mom very smart. She's a doctor. I love her. She's smart. And when I was coming into freshman year, she was fish out of water. Like she had and I didn't have any idea either. I had no idea how Schoology worked. I had no idea how basically anything at all worked. And I think maybe something as simple as like a 5-page little docket, like something that you put into a parent's hands that's like, this is how you check their grades, this is who you talk to for what issue, a little table, like if they're sick, you call this number, if you have questions about attendance, you call this number, anything, just you have a step-by-step playbook for what they need to do. I think it would really do, because I think I had no idea who to go to, my mom had no idea who to go to. It was a really weird moment. And that might have changed by now because this was 4 years ago. Wow, but
Yeah, I've seen that. They have it now.
They do?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have it.
Awesome. So,
But I
tried to
almost,
rewrite-
I was just thinking, just because of what Ms. Montgomery was talking about, to me, in some ways, because it's more specific and it's more focused on the outcome of the student outcome, 10 to me now makes more sense than 4.
Yeah.
4 is so large and maybe too all-encompassing that it doesn't give us enough clear focus. Whereas 10 gives us a much clearer focus with the end goal of the ability to support the students, which is where we need to be.
I think everybody sounds like, I'm looking at the little light bulbs over people's heads, and I think people can kind of envision of how we might accomplish that one over the course of the year.
Yeah.
And the question is, does it have the leverage? Like, what's the leverage of that in terms of what we're trying to achieve? So where, if we think that that's gonna have significant leverage towards our SMART goals, then maybe that is something we elevate.
What are the strategies around 10?
Some of them I just heard about.
It's only one. Engage with parents to create opportunities for them to volunteer.
And then go to 4? How many strategies are there?
There's like
Well,
6.
Some of the things you're already doing, right? So giving the parents, a roadmap of, here are the data systems, here are the this, here are the that. Maybe getting a little more robust about.
Yeah, but for example, this week we have the new rising parents coming to school for orientation. Then we have a open house that we have the principal's coffee that Dr. Bachman talked all about
Yeah.
that information. Our webpage, it was redesigned this year also to put it simple for the parents to navigate. So that we are also doing, contributing. And actually we have a survey for the parents that is also in the 90 News. That they prepare that every week for the parents to get in contact with the
That's
school.
great.
Yeah.
The APS one, the family engagement survey. the APS
Yes,
one.
we have the parent engagement survey is in the roundup in the 90 News. And it's until December.
Would it be
2nd.
helpful to have parents help Sherpa up other parents, like a little group of parents, like imagine if you had a group of people to go to. and
Like a
say,
mentor
Oh.
parents.
you could say, hey, I'm having trouble with this. Oh, here's what you do.
Informally in Facebook groups. That's what
Right.
happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
They have
that's
to
not
make
always
it.
helpful.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
for like a
so-
certain generational group, that doesn't work well for.
So based on everyone's conversation, I tried to re-rank, and I can read through those and we can see if we agree. So 1, 2, 4, 3, 10, 7, 5, 6, 11, and then neither 8 or 9 got any discussion, so we can choose which is the most and which is the least, but that's how I kind of reordered based on your discussion. Is there any?
Well, 8 confuses me because increasing leadership, it sounds like increasing leadership and mitigating burnout go together,
Yeah.
and they don't. So, they don't go together. And the way that sentence is written, it's like, those are two different, and that just really confuses me. That's why I'm ignoring 8.
Well, do we want that to be last, 9 and then 8?
Increase the number of
Yeah.
teachers
Provide
with
that-
credentials.
Yeah, you can.
Because, okay,
It may just be like.
This
It is increase the number of
Right.
teachers with
9.
certifications for advanced
Yeah.
learning.
Or just take out increased leadership.
Yeah.
Mechanism.
Yeah, I feel like it's just the
I think
description of
mitigate
burnout,
the
mitigate burnout.
That's our
priority.
bigger issue.
It seems
Yeah.
like the strategy seems like important, but the priority, like the way they worded it is like wrong. Like, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
weird.
The strategy says increase the number of teachers with credentials and certifications for advanced learning. Is that, I don't
That's where the
know.
leadership piece comes in.
Is that how burnout, once you get like
And do you
AP
need to-
certified, do you no longer burn out?
Continue to provide.
So maybe the priority
Burn
needs
out.
to be,
For 9, for the strategy, what does it mean by subject-specific professional memberships?
so there are like things that you can be a part of for like NSTA if you're a science teacher.
Right.
There's, I'm a science person,
NCT.
so I
I
don't
feel
know
like-
all the other ones.
I feel like wise of strategy, I
there's-
feel like 8 might be more
Yeah.
important than 9.
But are we providing those?
Yeah, 9's.
I feel like wise of strategies, I feel like
Yeah,
9 has to be at the
it's
bottom
the
compared to
leadership.
8. I feel like 8 definitely should be.
And
This
it's
is provided.
But-
So the gifted certification, that's been something you've worked on, all through middle school and and have seen it pay dividends, in terms of student achievement. So that one does seem like,
And it's even more important now.
Yeah.
Because the state is really cracking down on the collab model, which is really one teacher works with a non-gifted. So who is gifted, she would work with another teacher who's teaching gifted classes but not gifted certified. That works really well here. I know it probably doesn't work well in other schools, but the state is now saying that's not. Or if you're going to continue to use that, I would have to give the teachers an extra planning period. Which is really hard to do in our master schedule. So getting, like this year when I hire teachers, you're gonna have to have gifted certification. I can't hire you on the promise that you're gonna get it, because that often doesn't work out. It's really important, the gifted certification going forward, very, very important. And so we've even offered some, the gifted certification, starting in January class. Had a few people take us up on it, but not many. I mean,
Is that
Gifted
feeling like it's
certification.
coming up in the ranking or no?
Yeah, but I just don't feel like these are written. Yeah, I think that's probably more of a strategy
Okay,
than a one of the priorities.
because that's gonna be relevant to the budget, you know, when it comes to who you hire and then how you train.
Should I read them again or are we ready? Any changes before I go through? So 1, 2, 4, 3, 10, 7, 5, 6, 11, 9, 8.
Actually, I think 8 was, or I don't know.
No, 9 at the bottom.
I don't know.
It was,
Personally, I think 9 should be at the bottom just
Yeah.
because it's,
an oxymoron.
Still think 4 needs to be lower than, I think the 10 needs to be moved up, but
I think
that's
that-
just my thought process.
I agree with the wording, but then I'm looking at the, the like strategy, and it's kind of like for 10 and 4.
yeah, 10's pretty vague
It-
compared to
it's-
4.
I agree.
Mhm.
I don't know, it just feels like it's not
Also,
doing what
I
it's
will say
saying.
10 also
Mhm.
had a,
Are you backwards even?
10 is the same thing.
You said 10?
I think 4 is better than 10,
Yeah, of course.
mainly because of the wording in the school
Oh, you're talking about
strategy.
strategies.
Yeah,
I think,
Yeah, I don't think, I think last year.
I think, shouldn't 11,
We didn't really think
Focus
it
on
through,
that, yeah.
focus on what to
I will
actually.
say,
Oh,
I think 11 is basically 10, but I think 11 might be more important.
Yeah, I think if
If I'm not wrong, do you not, I think
Yeah.
11 is the same thing as 10, but I think 11 is more important. Like they both focus on parent volunteering and having parents become more involved in
Right.
students, you know, engagement and whatnot. But 11 also offers things like the CTAE thing and all that other stuff. So I think 11 should be moved up personally.
Some of those strategies could be for another.
Right,
Yeah.
they could just be moved to 10.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
10 is like
Yeah.
a super specific point, but vague strategies, and 11 is just.
I
it's
remember
vague
we're not-
strategies.
We're focused on the
Strategy,
priorities.
right.
We'll do the
The
strategies
strategy is
later.
the-
Okay,
but
gotcha.
the strategy
change
And
later.
strategies
I'm
are
so
usually
excited.
the school.
Yeah.
It comes up
Yeah.
with the strategy.
Okay, then based
5
specifically on
Yeah,
priorities.
just,
Yeah, then, okay, yeah, 10's definitely above 11. That's so weird how they
And
wrote
9,
it.
which is at the bottom, 8 or 9?
Based on strategy.
Yeah.
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 Eight.
So 8 is
It's
at
so
the
weird
bottom.
how they wrote this.
So we're not then, so then it's to the school to come in and say, okay, maybe some of these strategies should be reassociated with some of these other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're not voting on that. We're voting on this ranking.
Just the-
Yeah.
So does anybody, okay, so she just outlined our
Is that
current
are we
ranking?
Good, we ready to?
Yeah.
1, 2, 4, 3, 10, 7, 5, 6, 11, 9, and 8.
Is it in?
Okay. That is the new ranked
We ready
list.
to move to vote?
Yes, we are. May I have a motion?
I motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. That passed unanimously. We will now move on to our discussion items. And the first one is a presentation from the Go Team office.
You waiting on that?
I was invited. So, hi y'all, most of you know me, my
I
name's
know,
Diane
it's CIP.
Jacoby, I'm the school governance liaison for the district, and Dr. Bachman asked me to come in and just kind of do a little presentation, so. Okay, so,
I forgot.
board meetings is useful. So we're gonna talk a little bit about working as a governing body together.
There should be an X where it's below a little black bar.
Yeah, you have to move the black bar.
So we always in the Go Team office, we like to start grounding ourselves in our mission and vision. And the district's mission is preparing culture of equity, trust, and collaboration. Every student will graduate ready for college, career, and life. And the vision is a high-performing school district where students love to learn, educators inspire, families engage, and community trust the system. Just always good to kind of ground yourself in that. So really quickly, and I know it's getting late, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but really quickly, the charter system overview, what your role is as a Go Team. The acronym LSGT is Local School Governance Team, what your work is and how you can be really successful as a team. Charter systems were developed about 15 years ago, and the state legislature was very deliberate in what they decided a Go Team, a local school governance team could do. And so they laid out 5 domains, but they were also very deliberate in the law to be clear that while a local school governing team has decision-making authority, that the ultimate authority still rests with the superintendent and the school board. It's supposed to kind of be a little bit of a shared decision-making authority, but ultimately the school board and superintendent are still responsible for outcomes. So in a charter system, the local board of education still has the same role. The superintendent's role changes a little bit in that they have to distribute some authority away from central office. And then at the school level, this is what was new when we became a charter system, is that we're focused on governance. That's the high level aspect. And you pay attention to that strategic plan, just like you did today. That strategic plan, you guys as a board own it. That is your ownership. That's where you guys are going to spend all your time talking in some way, shape, or form around that framework of that strategic plan. So what is your role? This is where I really like talking about parliamentary procedure, because when you serve on a governing board, in terms of parliamentary language, we talk about the body. So we are not looking at all of you as individuals necessarily, but you are to work as one body together. If you've ever served on any other board, be it Student Government Association, be it a homeowners association, be it fraternity, sorority, church board, you're supposed to work together, and all the members of the body have a responsibility to the body. Those are your core duties. And in the Go Team office, we talk about them from the core duties of engagement, focus, and compliance. And with these core duties, you have to help each other sometimes, to stay focused on it. Engagement, we want everybody to be here. We want the whole board, because we have our high school Go Teams, we have 11 members. We have student voice, we have parents, communities, staff, and everybody brings a different perspective, different experience, and different knowledge to the table. And if we don't have all of those voices represented, then we're not really getting that full engagement of all the community groups, right? So help each other make sure that people can be here. If you notice that 1 or 2 members seem to struggle to get to these meetings, reach out, make sure that the meeting time still works for them. Make sure that, that they can even come in virtually, that's allowed. Because you guys may have to reopen that discussion as to, does this meeting time work for you? The other one is, next one is focus. When you have on your Go Team member hat, you are to speak from a perspective of the entire school, or at least large swaths of the school. We are not talking about individual issues. We're not talking about your individual classroom or your individual needs as a teacher. We're not talking about individual student issues. We're not talking about individual student discipline. We're not talking about your individual grades or how you're doing in one class or another. You're supposed to be representing your constituency. And I use that word very deliberately, because the way the state set up our Go Teams in state law, y'all are considered a public governing body. So congratulations, you're publicly elected officials. So when we talk about things like open meeting laws and putting out notice and that kind of thing, it isn't just because APS thinks this is a good idea, but it's because the state says that this is what you have to comply with. And that is our third duty, is that of compliance. So we have both an APS board policy around what this governance looks like, and then there are those state laws. So when we send out information about open meeting laws, or you need to make sure that your website is up to date, again, that's not us, don't shoot the messenger. We're just trying to make sure, because if you violate open meeting laws, it's considered a misdemeanor and a $1,000 fine. And if you've been listening to Dr. Johnson, we've got over $100 million deficit as a district. So, you know, $1,000 for a misdemeanor is not really where we want to go. But again, while we have officers who may have that main job of trying to make sure that you're in compliance, as a body, you can try to help support that. So, you know, like around the minutes, if you know that the secretary is like, I just am not going to be able to get out a draft, maybe somebody else can raise their hand. Hey, you know what? You sent it. Everybody can send all their updates to me and I'll send out the revised draft. You know, help each other out as part of the body. That's going to make the work go more smoothly. You do have powers in this governance role. And I'm not going to read the whole slide, but a lot of this goes around that strategic planning. But one of the things that I really want y'all to think about also are school-based solutions, those flexibilities. How can we do it differently? Should we do it differently? You know, to your guys' point earlier about what was working with tardy versus whatever, you know, maybe there's something at the school level that you guys could request flexibility from board policy if you wanted to go through the whole process. Because we have a new superintendent who seems open to discussions around some of this flexibility and autonomy a little bit more at this. And again, I'm not going to read the whole slide. You're also responsibility. You do have a constituency, please reach out to them. Please try to engage them in various ways. And there are some other things here. This sums up what was happening in the previous slides. This is where we balance ourselves. The GO team, you guys are at a governance level. That means you are above the trees. You are not in the details. You talk about that strategic plan. That is the North Star. You want everybody in the building working towards that strategic plan. So that means that at your student government association, you guys should have that strategic plan in front of you and go, okay, we have these goals, here's the school's goals, how do we marry those two together? If you have a PTA, PTSA or PTSO, they should have a copy of that plan. Everybody should be working towards that same strategic plan. It is Dr. Bachman and her team's job to implement the plan, to figure out those management things, those day-to-day decisions on how to achieve those goals. So in the strategic plan that you were just looking at, you guys voted on the priorities, great discussion, but those strategies, those are the management things, and those are out there largely as information for you guys and for you guys to bring your input and your perspectives. Because if one of your priorities was engaging parents and it was, you know, oh, well, we should have a, you know, a beach volleyball game, you know, you may go, you know, I don't think our parents are going to like that. They might enjoy a, you know, a fundraiser at the local brewery better, you know, things like that. So that's why that goes through. Your strategic plan leads directly to your budget. The reason that we ranked our priorities today is because now in January, when Dr. Bachman gets her her allocations for the budget, she knows what you all have said. These are our top priorities. So she's going to look to fund those, to be successful with those first. And then, as you all said, all the priorities are important, but unfortunately our funds are limited. So then we go down. You do have officers on your team. The chair is the middleman. So you all do have the right to request things to be put on the agenda every time. So if you want something on the agenda, you can email the chair. I highly recommend including Dr. Bachman so that she can be in that loop. But that way you can give everybody time to be prepared for meetings. Vice chair, if the chair isn't here, gets to step into that role. We also have the vice chair to be the parliamentarian. And then the secretary is responsible for those minutes, and you have a cluster advisory representative. This is where some of that shared responsibility comes in with the minutes and what to expect with the minutes. The minutes are not a novel. They should be really dry, they should be really boring, and they should be just the facts, ma'am. So this is where you guys can help with those minutes too, because if you get in there and you notice it says, well, you know, Tamara said that purple is the best color in the world, and Dr. Bachman said, no, it's green. That should not be in the minutes, right? Those are opinions. You shouldn't be talking about people. The minutes should be, should actually not really have names in. If you have your minutes, no name should be in the minutes unless somebody has specifically asked for their name to be included. So this is what you should expect from the minutes, that they are accurate. All the votes that you take need to be outlined in the minutes. If it's not in the minutes, it didn't happen. So if you guys want to take action as a body, you have to agree on it as a body. That means the majority of you have to agree on it, which means a motion, a second, discussion, and a vote with the majority of people saying, yes, we want to do this. Because that gives everybody time to get input on that. It lets all perspectives be seen. There's transparency for your community. And then there's also accountability for you as a governing body. Because if the majority voted on it, then you are accountable to finish it. So again, y'all can read, but these are things to just kind of remember with the minutes.
I have a question about the names. So if I was to put Tamara Jones moved and Roderick Hill seconded.
No, those names are included, who moved
Okay.
and who seconded.
Okay. just wanted to
But it's in
clarify.
like that discussion part,
Yeah,
because if you think about it from a governing body,
yeah,
the body's having this discussion.
yeah, I got that part. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, but no, for the motion,
But
you
not the rest
include who
of it.
made the motion and who seconded, and how everybody voted.
Okay.
Now, if it's unanimous, you can put down unanimous consent.
Mhm.
And because then you know everybody at the table is. But if
Mhm.
there's a split,
Mhm.
you want to detail out how the split went.
Okay.
So you saw that there were very specific domains that the state gave you all decision-making authority over. These next two slides, you have curriculum, school improvement, that is your strategic plan, that is your A number one. We're going to talk about the strategic plan, and school operations as they impact the strategic plan. And this just kind of lays out where that management role is, Dr. Bachman, the governance role, and how by doing it together, you have positive outcomes. Finance, again, money makes the world go round. Y'all are probably going to be prepared for probably some really difficult discussions coming up this budget cycle. As Dr. Johnson's been saying it, we've been reading, I'm sure Dr. Bachman's heard it often. So, you know, that's why that strategic plan ranking is really important, because you can keep coming back to that. We said this was most important. You know, that means that we may not be able to do some of the things at the bottom. And then in terms of personnel, when Dr. Bachman wins the lottery and decides to go and retire into heating, if her position becomes open, then you guys are engaged in the process. And Human Resources has a whole process to include you in making a recommendation to the superintendent. Otherwise, anybody who's hired in the building is left up to the principal and HR. So that's where that goes.
There was a question.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Because you were talking about budget and it's something I haven't understood for a while. Do we get most of our funding federally or from local taxes?
So there are three sources that come from budget.
Yeah.
You have federal, you have state, and you have local. Federal is about 10% across the state as a general rule, and that funds very specific programs such as free and reduced lunch, Title I, which is around students who are in poverty. It did add extra funds there. And then there's some other grant programs. And for Atlanta Public Schools, about 70%, 60 to 70% of our funds in any given year are from local property taxes. And then the remaining is from the state. Now, as you go look around the state, that the 10% from federal is about equal. across all 180 school districts around the state. That local to state ratio can change quite significantly depending upon what is in what is in a county. So I will be more than happy to talk to you in detail about it later if you'd like. But for APS, it's 67% is local. And
I was just wondering how the effect of like new federal administration.
yeah,
Yeah, he was researching.
One thing, and I'd like to, I'll be happy to talk to you later. The thing to look at in Georgia is they just approved a voucher bill last year. So that might have a more immediate impact in Georgia than federal. So
Thank you.
So how do you choose the appropriate topic to talk about at this table? The first question, does it relate to our strategic plan? If it is about the color of the flowers in the flower bed out front, I am hoping that's not in your strategic plan, and we don't want to talk about that. So again, you guys as a body own that plan. Please focus on it. Please talk about it. It's in the plan. Let's go down to the next. The next question you have to ask is, somebody get paid to handle this issue? This is where you might have to take a step back and figure out, are we talking about this from a governance lens or from a management lens? So back to discipline, right? What happens to students when they're targeted? That is a management issue. Do you get detention? Do you get ISS? Do you get a slap on, just what happens? That's management. However, talking about it from, this is a problem, our kids aren't coming, it is impacting our strategic plan, it is impacting our learning, the policies are not good. That is a governance lens. So from that governance lens, you can keep talking about this, right? We don't want to talk about the how, we're talking about the what. And then finally, you want to make sure that you're not relating to individual students, small groups of students, or individual personnel. Individual students and small groups of students is a violation of federal law. It's FERPA. It's kind of the equivalent of the medical law, HIPAA. They have that protection. And in terms of our personnel, they have rights about, you can't ask just for, I'm sorry, just my point. You can't ask for her GMAS scores just for her class. We could look at it on the science department on the whole. We can look at, how do our students do on physical science, and then you can break down. The reason we can't look at really small subgroups is because we want our data to remain anonymous. So while you all may know the really nice family from Hawaii, when you go and look at the data for Midtown High, you may just see an asterisk for Native Pacific Islander. That's because you need at least 15 students in a cohort. So if on apsinsights.org, you see a value, or at the Governor's Office of Student Achievement, you see a value for a subgroup, or the Georgia Department of Education, you see a value for a subgroup, chances are you have more than 15 students. But if it's under that 15, we can't talk about that specific subgroup. So that's kind of how we get down to.
I have a question about this. So at our last meeting, there was conversation about student laptops in schools. So if I want to put that forward on the agenda, do I need to go back to our strategic plan and see how that relates? I'm trying to figure out how to cut stuff out or add stuff on, or what's appropriate.
So on that one, there are a couple of different avenues. So in terms of actual discussion around that, you could ask, how is this new policy impacting some of our SMART goals, right? Because hopefully there's a direct correlation that you can see in terms of, we've seen a decrease in discipline issues. We've seen an increase in this, something measurable, right? You can also ask for it from an information standpoint.
Oh,
Can you give us more information on some of that?
Okay.
In terms of some of those policy questions, I listened to your last meeting.
Yeah.
So for example, the APS policy on personal electronic devices
Yeah.
in no way distinguishes between phones and laptops. It is a personal electronic device.
Okay.
So the policy, when you read the policy, is very specific in that students are not allowed to have personal electronic devices out without permission from staff. So that's governance, right?
Right.
Management is, we have yonder pouches and lockers. that's, you know, so,
Okay.
so, you know.
So
I'm saying
should this be decided like when the agenda is put together though?
Mhm.
Like, so that anything that comes on the agenda has gone through this kind of vetting
that-
process?
Right.
That's what I was getting at. Okay.
Yeah, it should go through like some of this vetting process.
Okay.
And I mean, now, if it's not in your strategic plan, but it's something that you feel is really important, around, maybe you all want more details on how the actual process involved in tardy and whatnot. Like, yes, that's management and you understand that, but sometimes to get to strategy and governance and strategic thinking, you need to know how it's being done to like build on that. So you could ask for information so that you have a foundation and grounding in, I need to understand the how, so I can talk more about the what and the why, right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But again, that management isn't for, oh, well, you need to change how you're doing that. That's just more like information kind of things. That. And find keys to your success. Here are some of the things that are really good for effective Go teams. That strategic plan. We're always going to come back to that plan. Guiding star. Data. Data today, data tomorrow. Data at this table. And you guys can ask, like, if you want to see a subgroup, if you want to see like student mobility rates, and then see, again, assuming that your transient students, the ones who have really high mobility, are more than 15 students, you could ask to see, do we have those students pulled out as a subgroup to actually see what their data looks like on their achievement versus, you know, that just, again, working as a body, that helping strong relationships with each other, having that open, trusting each other that everybody at this table is here for the benefit of all of the students in this building and future students in this building. That everybody's trying for that same mission. Every student prepared for college, career, and life, right? And then just create that whole culture about, we're going to be here to collaborate. It's okay to ask why. It's okay to ask how. You know, just asking isn't criticizing. It's just trying to build your knowledge and get to come from a place of, oh, now I did that, but what have you thought about this? Because if you come from a different field, if everybody were coming just from being classroom teachers, right, then you only have one perspective. Versus if you come from architecture, if you come from medical, if you come from, you can bring something different to the table.
I'm sorry, I know you heard my voice enough, but
No.
I was wondering in reference to data, if we'd be allowed to request, like, hey, like for the morning, people who are tardy every morning, could we add an option to see who couldn't find a parking spot? Or like some, not necessarily that, because, you know, personal, but I just meant like if there's something we're really interested in or something that I think affects a large amount of students, would be able to say, hey, here's something that a lot of people are experiencing, but there's no data around it.
Yeah, and if like, for example, like, let's say that you wanted to add that question as students come in to ask for tardy. What was the reason for your tardy? Couldn't find a parking spot, couldn't, you know, and so you as a body, you could suggest that. You could make a motion to have that added to the tardy sign-in sheets and ask Dr. Bachman over you know, 6 to 8 weeks to collect the data and then bring it. Again, it has to be anonymous when she brings it, but you could do that. In terms of academic data and all, again, I bet you almost any academic data that you want to ask Dr. Bachman for, she can find it for you. But again, please remember that it needs to be a large enough cohort of students to talk about that. So that's not the issue. Atlanta Public Schools is one of about somewhere between 45 and 50 charter systems around the state. It keeps growing because the other school systems see the benefit of having this. So the Georgia Department of Education, and if you ever listen to a board meeting, you might hear it referred to as GDO. So if you ever hear them talk about GDO, it's Georgia Department of Education, actually does define what high quality governance looks like. So we want the diversity of the community to be represented. That's why we have parents, community members, staff, students at our high schools. And in APS, we are one of the few systems where our students are full members of our team. And just to let you all know, this is something I'm actually really proud of for APS. We are on the second iteration of our charter. Charter's just a contract. When we went out to renew it, we heard from our community that our students needed a louder and stronger voice. In our first iteration, we had one student in an advisory role. Now we have two, and you guys are full members. There's actually a student who is chair of their Go team at one of the high schools. But just so you know, the stakeholders that were the loudest about wanting more students on the team were our high school principals. They really wanted to hear from you all, so that.
And we did have a co-chair. We actually had a co-chair.
You had a co-chair and a secretary, yeah, so, so we're actually really proud of that, so. But you all at Midtown do a great job of meeting regularly. Stick to governance, stay out of management. I know across the state, because I have contacts across the state, that one sometimes is the one that trips a lot of teams up. Make sure that you're doing your responsibilities. We help with that by sending out the PowerPoints, by sending out the agendas. You can always contact our office. We are happy to help to talk about, is this an appropriate item for the agenda? How can we bring this up? This is my concern. This is what I want to talk about at Go Team. And we can help you find a way to frame it appropriately, because I will be honest with you, in our office, we want to try to get you to yes as often as possible. Some version of yes, right? Because there are things that are important to you all, and this is the place to talk about it, because what is important to you might be impacting the kids or somehow. We do offer trainings throughout the year. Tomorrow we're having another live orientation. Please save the date for Saturday, January 11th. We're having our summit in person. We have confirmed it at Tuskegee Airmen. Everybody, all Go Team members are invited. We will feed you. Hey, you know, I come from the PTA world. PTA world, if you feed them, they will come. Like, but we would like at least 3 members of every team to show up. So, and then almost every month we offer optional conversations through Zoom, through Ellis, that you can find the recordings of. When you have a problem, use the model, ask what is the problem presenting, describe it thoroughly, who is impacted, how does it impact the work of the school or the team, gather those informations, figure out those data points you want. This is some of that design thinking, that innovative thinking, right? We want to make sure that we are addressing something that we're going to be addressing what the actual problem is. An example I can give you of that is there was one time that a principal wanted to change the start time of school because after lunch they kept having discipline issues. And we got to the bottom of it. It's like, okay, so changing the start time isn't necessarily going to change discipline after lunch, right? Like you're probably still going to have that problem. So we had to help the principal rethink, reframe. Yes, discipline's a problem, but how are we addressing it? The more details you have, the greater a chance of success. And as you're talking about solutions, please be open. Sometimes, you know, doing something that's really out of the box. Okay, you may not be able to do that, but man, it might start a conversation that will lead you to something that it can be really effective. Identify several potentials. You know, there's more than one way to get to a solution. There's more than one solution. Identify what it's going to cost. And that's not just money. You know, that can be time. That can be brain power. That can be a lot of things. Identify the impacts that could happen around your community and stakeholders. Brainstorm, present to the team. Like if somebody has a great idea, have a brainstorming session with your community. You know, bring in more voices, bring in more perspectives, kind of do that. And then if you implement a solution to something, make sure to monitor it so you know if it's working or not, or if you need to tweak it. This is our team. I am really proud of the fact that we have been a team for 7 years. There's just the 3 of us are doing this work. I promise you, if you email goteam@apsk12.org or call 802-2885, if you get a hold of one of us, you've gotten a hold of all of us. Again, we've been doing this work for 7 years. We we all are gonna probably give you the same answer. So you can find more information at APS Strong Schools. And if we ever get bandwidth, we do try to do a little bit of social media. I do have an automation that goes to Facebook that will do meetings. Any questions? I know I flew through a lot of that, but it is getting late. Yes, ma'am.
And I'll put this out on the parking lot for a later meeting, but the part about communicating, with our community, with the parents and all that, this has been a sticking point for me for a long time. It's like this group doesn't have a vehicle. Like there's no real way for us other than people who know me, and people who know y'all. But you have student government, so that's different. But like, we don't have a really good way of interfacing with the wider
The people you
community.
represent.
Yes, and it strikes me that circles us back to that number 10 a little bit. And so, not now, but in a future meeting, if we could talk about, how we could make that a little bit more robust and meaningful. Because I get comments all the time that I don't know what the Go team is doing. But when we post the minutes,
You post the
and
minutes
unless they read the minutes and then take the time to go watch the video, they don't really know.
So a couple, just really quickly, really high level, a couple of things that I have seen through the years, not just in APS, but around, is if there is a regular newsletter goes out, then the Go team can provide some quick bullets. At our last meeting, we did this and this and this, find 4 minutes and here, like you always have a corner in the newsletter kind of thing. You do have that whole webpage for the Go team. So if you don't want it just to be the minutes and the video, you can always add to it. So like you could put a meeting summary, like.
But an employee has to do that, right?
Yes, an employee has to do that. But if you provide the text, it could just be a cut and paste. Like, there are ways to do that. And I mean, I'm sure that there are other communication channels that as a team you can talk about how to do that. Are there any other questions?
Thank you, Diane, very, very much.
Appreciate it. What I keep in mind is we're a Go team. We're supposed to operate efficiently and go and do things. But how are we supposed to do that without set meetings?
I know.
I should second that.
Donuts and coffee, you're right.
I think
Yeah.
we're- I
You know
should
what?
put my money in the
We're gonna
budget.
have them next meeting. Yes.
Okay, we're ready to move on to the next item, 45-day continuous improvement plan check-in.
That was really the presentation. We did a lot of that
Yeah, we
discussion
did.
already.
All right.
There's no new things to us.
Okay, so we're going on to the graduation rate?
Yes.
All right.
All right. So we have a little bit of data to share and present regarding the graduation rate from cohort 2024, which just became available. So they give a score, an overall score, which is the average of the two, and then you get a 4-year graduation rate, meaning that cohort graduated within 4 years, and a 5-year graduation rate, meaning the percentage of kids who graduated within 5 years. So you can see our score did improve to 92.6. As the Go team's strategic plan, we wanted to be at 93 by cohort 2025. So we're only 0.4 of a point away from reaching that goal next year. So we're definitely on track. You can see that was a 2.7% increase from cohort 2023 as an overall. And then breaking it down between the 4-year graduation rate, we had a 1.52% increase for that 4-year graduation rate, but a 5.15% by 5-year.
I'm confused. The 5-year graduation rate, that's up 5 points from the people who took longer than 5 years in the past.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah.
92.3.
So in the cohort 2023, the graduation rate for a 5-year, for you taking 5 years to graduate was at 87 something. And we're now at 92.33.
Okay, it's a different set of groups, a different set of kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
the fours are not included in the fives. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Because, okay, because so 4-year graduation rate would be cohort 2024, meaning you were supposed to graduate in 2024.
Right.
Whereas the 5-year graduation rate would have been cohort 2023. And you graduated in
Okay,
cohort
thank you.
2024.
I didn't
Does that
write
make sense?
Yes, it does now.
Okay.
Thank you. Little.
All right, so breaking this down a little bit more, you can see the flag. So a green flag means that we met the target. The rate, the first column, the rate is our, actual score for Midtown. The target is set by the state of Georgia based on previous year's data. They have a very complicated formula. You can go on the website and look it up. I'm not going to pretend that I can explain that to you, but the target is the state's data based on previous years. So if it's a green flag, it means that we met the target. It's a red flag, we're still working towards meeting that target. So you can see we did meet all of the flags for our 4-year graduation rate, with the exception of the multiracial student population group. So we're still definitely some work there. And then looking at the 5-year graduation rate, which again, this would have been cohort 2023, graduating in cohort 2024, we did meet every single target by subgroup of students there.
That's still, I think, COVID related and virtual related, trying to get kids that failed classes, didn't take classes, and yeah, it took a lot to get them back on track.
Questions here? Next day will be the principal's report.
Oh, so we're done with that. Okay, then moving on to the.
So all of those discussion items we had in like with
Earlier.
action discussion,
Mhm,
action
yeah.
discussion.
I don't really have anything to add, more to add, just some things that are going on. Well, last time we talked a little bit about the after school program and Chromebooks and things like that. So what we did was not Chromebooks, personal laptop. So Dr. Namias, student support coordinator, asked, did a survey of all the after school activities, teams, clubs, and asked about personal laptops. Is that something that students need to be successful in the club and that kind of thing? So this is what happened. Teachers were asked about all devices, cell phones, Chromebooks, personal laptops, tablets, and were given open space to provide context for challenges. Teachers were asked to comment on whether they would want an option to have their students surrender the personal laptops in the morning, and then the sponsor would come and get them after they're held all day, that kind of thing. We were asking what, how they would want to. It only, is there more data, or is that the only?
There's another slide.
Okay, so you can see the results there. 27 sponsors responded across a range of clubs and activities. Most saw no need for students to have their devices other than their phones or Chromebooks, both of which students have access to at 3:30. Some expressed concern that we not offer another option because it could impact the consistency of our process overall. We start making exceptions. That was very important to our teachers, that we not go back on what we have established for this year. Very, very important. Follow-up emails were then sent to any sponsor who had questions, or a sponsor whose answers needed clarification. One sponsor responded that it would definitely benefit the students to have their personal laptops, and that they would like the surrender option for their students. 2 other sponsors responded that they would not want to offer the surrender option in general, but might want to offer it in very specific situations. So we continue to bring up the thing about personal emails, like Gmail accounts, iCloud accounts, that students can access that. We continue to do that. I am working with Erica Long to try to really make some headway on that. Seems to be a real stumbling block, a real barrier in APS about accessing Gmail accounts, iCloud, other personal accounts. So really trying to work on that. It's an issue. It's an issue that needs to be revisited. It's old. Can't really come up with a specific reason why. Security, But, you know, it's just a barrier to us. So we're really pushing that.
Okay.
I'd like to, can we table that tonight, the
Yeah.
STEAM update? and
This
we
is
can
in the
do that,
presentation,
because we'll
so
have
everyone can
more
take a look.
So,
Yeah.
And then some upcoming dates, just big picture, not individual, lots of things more than this going on, but just making sure that everyone has these.
Okay. There's now an opportunity.
Let me get the update.
Okay, that's right. So now we're gonna have the update on the cluster.
So I circulated a little, it's kind of like we have that strategic plan and priorities, the cluster the advisory team also has something. This is the one that they've been working with before. There was not a discussion about radically changing any of this, but we were asked similarly to prioritize. So out of this, what arose was focusing on STEAM implementation and engagement. So those were the two sort of overall topics. And what we had done in our first meeting, this was our second meeting this past week, was because the engagement part was such a big thing last year. And we've had kind of ad hoc engagements going on lately, like the ones with safety and security at VHE, you know, all that just people are stepping up and doing. And so we thought, okay, why don't we do this deliberately as a CAT, as a cluster advisory team? Because that way we'll have, you know, it's public meetings, it's all documented, we can have everything recorded, and, you know, have that for posterity. So we can try to have better outreach and engagement, you know, with our communities. We formed a committee, we voted to do that. It is populated by a representative from every school. There's a principal that is one of the co-chairs, Ms. Bringslid from Mary Lynn. And they had their first meeting and they gave some feedback from that first meeting, just areas of concern they've heard bubble up, you know, from an engagement perspective about what people want to talk about. Obviously, safety and security, mental health, data and assessment. You know, there's a variety of things that they want to start focusing on. I think the first engagement opportunity, it sounds like they're going to be working on, is safety and security. And so they'll be reaching out to people to try to broaden like how many people we get to come to the table and who from the district can come. And the idea here is not to be evaluative, you know, about it, like come and, you know, give the district or the schools any sort of opinion or suggestion. Rather, it's just to gather, it's a pass-through, to gather the input from students, from, you know, community, from anybody, you know, and then we pass that along to the district and do it in a very transparent way. So I'm having high hopes that, you know, for some of the topics that are more cluster-wide, like all of these, that we can have some good engagement around that. And we could potentially use those as a vehicle to say, oh, and hey, you know, whatever we start to come up with here at the high school, by the way, if you found this useful, we're setting whatever up, you know, and for topic X, and here's a way for you to go, you know, get engaged with that. So that's pretty much it. Do we have any questions about that group? I think it's a very dynamic and, you know, go-getter kind of group, and I'm excited about what they're going to bring to the table. It's striking me that there's no students on it there.
Hungry and like thirsty.
Yeah.
Seems
Thank you for that. Are there any announcements? Okay, our agenda now includes a time for a second public comment, but I don't think that there's anyone on there to make any public comments. So with that, we now move to adjournment. We have reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Wow, okay, y'all finally.
Whoa, can I get a second? Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, nay, abstentions. All right. Meeting is adjourned at 5:48.
Thank you, everybody.